In this video, we'll demonstrate how to create a simple module following a tutorial that's provided in NetKernel. Let's go to the documentation area and the tutorial guide. In the basic tasks section, the tutorial is create a module. And the first thing it says is that we need to create a modules area. In the earlier video installing NetKernel, we created a directory called NetKernel. And in this directory we placed the jar file that was downloaded, and from that made two installations, one NetKernel 4 jar and the other NetKernel 4, which is the expanded installation. In the same directory we're going to create a new folder called modules. This module, the new module that we're going to create, is going to have the name urn org 1060 tutorial first module. So let's copy that. Go back here and create a new folder. In the next step of the tutorial, it describes how each module must have a file, module.xml, which is located at the root of the modules directory. We're going to copy this provided file, so let's go ahead and copy this. And we're going to switch to an editor, which allows us to see now the new module subdirectory and this new directory that we just created. So we'll create a file called module.xml, and we'll paste in the module definition from the tutorial, and we'll save that. Okay, that's that step. Next, we want to have this module directly imported into the front-end fulcrum, so that we'll be able to send requests from our browser. To do that, we need to add another file called simple dynamic import hook.xml that has this content. So let's again copy the name and go back to our editor. This time we need to create some folders. First the Etsy folder, and then the system folder. And in there create this new file. It has this name. And we'll go back to the tutorial to copy the contents. And it's very simple. It's just simply stating that a connection is requested to the fulcrum. So we'll go over here, paste that, and save that. Next, we want to create a Groovy language endpoint implementation. Let's go back briefly to the editor and look at the module file. And basically what we see here in a module, there's a meta section where the identity of the module is defined and some human readable text that shows up in reports. The next section is an optional system section. In this case we include it so that we can say that the module is dynamic, which simply means that NetKernel will monitor for changes in the module.xml file, and if it detects any, it will recommission the module. And then here is the root space. This is the definition of the space inside the module, and here we've mounted a single file, the simple dynamic import hook, and that's used by the fulcrum to locate modules that are requesting importation. And next there's a mapper, and the mapper has a configuration section and a space. In the configuration section we're using a grammar within an endpoint, here's the endpoint, to define this logical endpoint called tutorial first module hello world, and that's the URL that we're going to enter into our browser to activate this endpoint. When the endpoint is resolved for a request, it issues a request to active Groovy, which is the Groovy runtime, and it passes it an identifier for the program to be run. So that's what we need to create next, is this resources script subdirectory and then hello world.gy. So we'll go back up here and we'll create these directories, and we need a new folder for resources, and inside of resources we're going to create scripts, And then inside of that, we'll create the file hello world.gy for Groovy. Okay, so that is now created. Now we'll go back to the tutorial guide and we'll just copy the program contents, which is this. So we'll go back and we'll paste that and save it. Okay, now we've got the module all set up, but we need to tell NetKernel about the physical location of this module. So to do that, we need to go to the NetKernel instance that we're running and edit the etc modules.xml file and add this right here. We're actually going to modify this slightly, and you'll see why in just a second, but I'll copy this for convenience sake. So we'll go back to our editor and we'll close this module subdirectory so we can clearly go to NetKernel 4 etc modules, and here's the list of the physical location of all the modules that NetKernel knows about. So we're going to go to the end here and paste in this new one. The thing that we're going to do is that we're going to say modules, and the reason we're going to do that is the location is relative to the install directory, and you'll notice that these are all module subdirectory with something, and that's because modules are by default put in this module subdirectory. So we don't want to do that. We have decided to put our modules in this other area, and so we're going to go up a level and then into modules, and then we're going to reference the physical location here of this module. So with that, and we'll save it, NetKernel will then know the physical location of our new module. So let's go over to our terminal, and we are in the bin directory, and you'll see the netkernel.sh script, and if you're on Windows it would be netkernel.bat. So we'll run that, and this will cause NetKernel to boot up. It'll locate our new module in just a second. There we go. So now we can go over to Opera, which is where we were looking at the tutorial, and I'll simply switch to another tab and enter localhost 8080, which is the front end fulcrum, and the address is if we go back, actually let's go back to the tutorial. The address we want to enter is this one right here, tutorial first module hello world. So we'll do that, tutorial first module hello world, and there we go, hello world from the first module tutorial. Now let's just go back and see if we're really running this code. So we'll just change this, and we'll just say changed text like this. Save that, go back and re-request, and you'll see that in fact we are connecting to that program, that endpoint. So that's it. That's an example of building a module.